Hello and welcome to TNT. Well, you don't come to Sydney unless you see the Opera House and over there the Sydney Harbour Bridge. That was opened in 1932 from memory, and I'm sure that this was opened in 1973 by Her Majesty the Queen, Elizabeth II. But today we're not talking about Bennelong Point, where I am at the moment. We're talking about the best beaches in the world. That's all coming up in today's TNT. And thank you for being part of TNT on this rather sort of truncated, peculiar version, sort of coming to you from various places, including Sydney Harbour, here at the Sydney Airport, maybe even Changi Airport on my way back to Thailand. Thanks for dropping in. So I will go through a few articles that have popped into my brain space that I'd like to talk about. One is from the Bangkok Post, and the story from the Bangkok Post, entitled China Ready to Emerge, reads somewhat like an editorial. Well, it's meant to be a story, but it does sort of read as an editorial. It's got a picture of Xi Jinping, and the first line of it says that maintaining neutrality and a balanced foreign policy amid rising tensions among global powers will help Thailand benefit from China's new administration, which comprises mostly reform-minded executives, according to academics. Then the next paragraph says they were expressing their views after the Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Sunday secured a third five-year term as the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party. And then it goes on talking about academics from the Chulalongkorn University Asian Studies Centre specifically, waxing lyrical about how good it will be having Xi Jinping as the leader of the Chinese Communist Party for the next 5 years. As I said, it doesn't read well for the Bangkok Post, who I think also should try and remain neutral, especially when it comes to tetchy matters like China, neutrality, and Thailand's position as part of the sort of greater Asian region. So just a note, please read the article. It was, as I mentioned, entitled China Ready to Emerge, Kingdom to Benefit from Xi's Ascension. And as I said, it sort of reads like an editorial and perhaps not particularly well headlined for an august organisation like the Bangkok Post. TNT coming to you from Sydney Airport on my way back to Thailand, and a story from Thai PBS. This time the Thai Prime Minister has visited Singbury in central Thailand. The flooding situation there is awful, and it looks like the Thai Prime Minister there is going for a bit of a cruise with his entourage, everybody all decked up in life jackets, but it's a pretty serious situation. The flooding up there has affected 19,587 households, and 148 villages have been inundated. And that situation's been like that for nearly a month. So we know that the flooding in central Thailand is still dire, and there's still a lot of floodwaters coming down the Chao Phraya River. And as we mentioned yesterday, the irrigation department saying that it could be until November until those floods are under some sort of control. Just also noting the Thai Prime Minister there in a very fetching pair of long orange rubber boots. Might look good getting those out on a Sunday night at home. Good luck to you, Mr. Prime Minister. So I mentioned at the start of the program I was going to be talking about the best beaches. Actually, I'm talking about the best islands in Asia. This is a survey done by SEAsia.com. I've never heard of them. I suspect once I read the list to you that they might be from the Philippines. But anyway, this is the best islands in Asia. It says 2021. It was actually only published today, but anyway, here we go. The top islands, the Reader's Choice Awards. And I'll admit up front that I've never heard of these first two islands, Siargao and Raja Ampat, the first from the Philippines and the second one in Indonesia. Never heard of these two islands. Then we've got Palawan, I've heard of that, Bali in Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Well, they've had their problems and still a beautiful place to go. So Sri Lanka makes it into the number 5 position. Then 6, we've got Langkawi in Malaysia, of course. Then Thailand, yay, we've got Koh Samui, the top island from this survey anyway in Thailand. And then we've got Boracay, beautiful place, and undergone a bit of a makeover during COVID. It's number 8. Then we've got the PP Islands, which is a bit of a cheat because, of course, that's an archipelago of 5 different islands, 2 main islands, Koh Phi Phi Don and Koh Phi Phi Lay, where Maya Bay is. And then number 10, we've got the island of Phuket. Yay! We made it into the top 10. So I'm not sure what you think about that particular list of the best islands in Asia. I can think of some better ones, but as I say, I suspect that there might have been some Philippine people voting for the top islands in Asia. The situation in Myanmar goes from one hellish situation to another, and since February last year, nothing much has happened from the international community to quell the violence, and at the moment the military junta still well in control in Myanmar. As far as Thailand's concerned, they've literally done nothing except trying to stop the flow of Burmese people coming across the borders, or at least getting them down to the registration office so they can work as legal migrant workers. But ASEAN now is looking to try and, another tack. They've got a meeting of the finance ministers this Thursday, and it's going to be held at the Secretariat for ASEAN this year in Jakarta. So we're hoping that the Myanmar situation may get a little bit of attention, might get a little bit of air, and hopefully some good ideas to try and put pressure on the military junta to look about perhaps having some elections, getting some democracy or at least peace back into that tortured country. Always happens to me just before I fly. There's always some sort of aircraft problem, disaster somewhere in the world, always before I fly. This time it's a Korean Airlines plane, an A330, an Airbus, for those people that are worried about things like that. And it was flying from Seoul to Cebu in the Philippines. It was trying to land in poor weather. It tried to land twice, and on the 3rd attempt they overran the runway. And Korean Air have got to put up with that rather pathetic photo of their Airbus A330 with its nose in the ground. Lucky to say that of the 173 passengers on board, nobody was injured. I'm sure they were certainly shaken and shocked at the time. But always seems to happen before I go flying, some incident like that. I am flying, by the way, on Scoot Airways. Scoot, of course, is majority owned by Singapore Airlines. It's their discount airline, but I'm just paying a little bit more and sitting up the front. In fact, I'm in seat number A1. So I'm going to pretend I'm in first class and at least hopefully get a bit of a sleep on my way to Singapore before a 7-hour layover in Singapore before making my way back to Thailand. One thing I really have noticed on this trip to Australia is how expensive it's become to do just about anything. I mean, I appreciate this country's got a great standard of living, and it's got the tyranny of distance. I mean, the distance between all the big cities. I mean, it's an expensive place to run with a relatively small population for the land mass. But all that aside, the cost of just about everything has increased, from public transport to food. The rental costs are just through the roof. And post-COVID, there are still a lot of hotels closed, so the ones that are open are charging a premium price at the moment. So I've really noticed a lot of high prices since I've returned to Australia. I first lived here for about 3 years in 1981, 82, 83, and obviously things have changed in some 40 years. But just in comparison to when I was last living in Australia some 11 or 12 years ago, the prices of just about everything from your data on your phones to your public transport, the traffic, the amount of traffic on the roads has really, really built up. and there are speed signs and speed cameras everywhere, so it's pretty hard to have a good fast car or enjoy yourself on the roads anymore. It's so heavily regulated, as is a lot of other parts of Australian life. But it is good to be back. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm an Australian, and this is one of the most magnificent cities in the world. Well, we know that over the past week, Phuket's had all sorts of challenges and problems with landslides, flooding, closed roads, people being redirected. It's been a real mess, and it's going to continue for a while whilst the floods are now subsiding. The Phuket News today reports that there is been a landslide in Katu in the middle of the island, and the land this time has flowed across a road and almost into the quarters of monks at a monastery called the Bang Thong Monastery. So they're investigating that. Now, yesterday I mentioned that there was that abandoned hotel along the bypass road, sort of almost opposite where IKEA is in Phuket. Sure, most of you don't care. Anyway, that abandoned hotel, which is sort of teetering and almost going to fall onto the bypass road, they're going to demolish it. In the meantime, it still sits there, and there's obviously very little foundation or land under that particular hotel now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that and how quickly they'll get around to demolishing it. I'll actually be able to go and have a closer inspection when I get back to Phuket. But there is one little shining light for the people of Phuket who are having a horror stretch at the moment, and that's been the appearance of the first cruise ship for a few years. This one's called the Spectrum of the Seas. It was carrying 4,600 passengers, and they only stayed for one night, probably had the opportunity to go ashore, and they would have been well welcomed by the shops along the foreshore there. They've headed back to Singapore now, but at least a cruise ship appearing in the Patong Bay would give a little bit of hope to all those poor traders in Patong. That's about all we've got time for today on our abridged version, our travelling version, TNT on tour. Today coming to you from the Sydney airport. And as you can see, the airport is really, really busy. So I haven't had much time to have a look around. I've got to get on my plane. If anything happens between now and when I get back to Thailand, I'll certainly do my best to try and do a quick edit at the Changi airport to make sure we do keep you up to date with everything happening in Thailand. But I'm about to get on a plane. Good luck with your travels. Thanks for watching.